Soy Montserrat Peidró y estáis viendo PaxAid Live.
PaxAid Pro Services really gets to act as an extension of your team. So when you come across a new deployment and you need help, don't have the bandwidth or the expertise to do the project, this is where we can jump in and help along the way.
Enable our partners' growth through scalable and repeatable implementation and technical services.
Taking the partners on their growth journey.
We can really help a partner that's doing a particular kind of project for the first time by working through it with them.
We make it as easy as possible, and typically this is through a one-touch click into our cloud commerce marketplace.
Our services are repeatable. They are fixed scope. There's no unpredictability.
We look to take what is sometimes complex technology solutions, and we essentially make it simple for our partners to leverage those different tools through our package offerings, so that we can come in and work as an extension to your team and deliver those solutions to your customers.
We have the expertise to be able to take on project work for you if you just don't have the bandwidth for it right now, or we can teach you how to do it.
And that's where PaxAid Academy comes in. We've got programs that help the partner in the way they want to learn. We've got all this free on-demand content.
We have a number of subject matter experts keeping up to speed with the latest developments and enhancements, features and functionality.
There's always going to be vendors added, and if it has our approval, that means it's going to serve you.
If you're interested in learning more, simply check out the PaxAid Professional Services Engagement SKU in the PaxAid Marketplace at no cost, and our team will be in touch.
Help propel your business forward right out of the cloud commerce marketplace at PaxAid.
AI, modern work, security.
We'll unravel it for you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Technically Unraveled. I'm David Powell, Vice President of Sales Strategy here at PaxAid. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, as the influencers on social media tell you, like, subscribe, and share our podcast right here. Also, it's not only Technically Unraveled that we got, we have The Game, we have PaxAid Academy, we have a bunch of great shows, awesome content that comes here from our team at PaxAid. We have a bunch of experts. We want to package this stuff up and get it out to you. Here on Technically Unraveled, we talk about all things AI, modern work, and cybersecurity. And as you know, I'm kind of focused on the AI and the cybersecurity side of things. And today we have my buddy Brad Weeks, and he's from Cook Systems, which is a company in Tennessee. And they're doing a ton with like investing in humans. I think that in our space, we hear about private equity, hear about venture capital, and they're investing in software and platforms and recurring revenue and all those things. But at the core, what makes all that stuff work are humans. And as we all know, there's kind of a gap in the marketplace around having enough humans. And so these guys at Cook Systems are investing in getting the humans and some ones that you might not anticipate to be ready to do this. So we're going to talk today about their what they do over at Cook Systems. We're going to talk about their FasTrack success story. We have a really cool video of how that has played out with a great human. And then we're going to talk about this whole idea of like AI and meaningful work. Are we doing meaningful work, or can we, use AI to help us do more of that? So with that, I want to bring on Brad Weeks, president of Cook Systems. Brad's coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in a hotel in Montreal, Canada today, but it's good to have you with us, Brad. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, David. Good to see you, bud.
Yeah, man. So Brad is one of my oldest friends. We met my freshman year of college when Brad was a senior in high school. That's a story for another day. We won't have to delve into how we met, but we've been a part of each other's lives for, many, many years. And we have all the stories once we won't drag out, but there's not, and I mean this in all sincerity, there's probably not a significant kind of life event in, the past 30 plus years that Brad hasn't been a part of. I was in his wedding. He was in my wedding. I was there for the birth of his first child. He was there for the birth of mine. In fact, he ran out and got us some Chick-fil-A while my wife was in labor and delivery, at parents' funerals, the whole bit. And so Brad and I go all the way back. And this summer we got to spend some awesome time at his daughter's wedding. But Brad, dude, I don't even know where to start with how far we go back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a pleasure to be your friend, obviously, for a long time. We have many, many stories, one of which I think is appearing right now. It's beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for
Look how
for
happy
those that
you are.
don't, I know. I mean, they say the camera adds 10 pounds, Brad, but
Yeah. A couple cameras on you there.
a couple cameras are on me, definitely there. So one fun fact about us is that that's Brad and Rachel and me and Allison. And Brad and Rachel dated from high school. Allison and I dated from high school. And so we went from this kind of, moment where we were together, dating back then, and now we're married and have been, this is from Brad's daughter's wedding. They have those little camera booths and you go in and you take some video and you think, oh, well, that'll be a great idea. And now you kind of regret having
Now we live
recorded
with
that. And now there's our lovely wives now. So yeah, thankfully
It's so
our
much
wives
better
have,
than us, dude.
oh dude, we're, I'm thankful that they're long suffering, B, patient, and C, have horrible judgment when it comes to dudes, or
Yeah.
or we be up crap creek. So what is here at Pack State? We had this little kind of trend where we talk about fun facts. Like Brad, I know you probably have a million you could pull from, but what is your fun fact for us today?
Fun fact. Goodness. You want me to give you a football fact or?
I think we should probably stay away from that right now. So what other
Fun
facts
fact.
might you have?
I think fun fact is maybe Tennessee's beaten Alabama in 2 of the last 16 years ish.
Yeah,
That's a fun fact.
Good. This is good.
It's not fun for me, but it's fun this week.
Yeah. So Brad went to the University of Tennessee after going to University of Alabama for 1 year. Rachel his lovely wife went to the University of Tennessee. And like I like to say is that the leash wasn't quite long enough to let him stay at Alabama. So she snatched him back
Another
up to
fun
Knoxville,
fact.
Tennessee.
Yes, I was short leash. Yeah.
Another fun fact. So Brad has been in a bunch of different, in all joking aside, that kind of most interesting man in the world, Brad checks a lot of those boxes. He's done a bunch of weird things. He's been involved in lots of different investment kind of stuff. He was at hedge funds, all this kind of stuff. But most recently, he started working over at Cook Systems, which is Rachel's dad started that company, and Brad's kind of evolved into some different stuff. And Brad, tell us about Cook in general, kind of what y'all do, and then where you've pivoted it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cook is a staffing consulting business in the tech space that really started, I think it was 36 years ago now. So it kind of launched out of the hardware season. Everybody was buying these giant systems and they needed people. And so her father, Wayne, actually started finding people to create code. So started with a pivot, right, into the labor, the whole build out of tech in the US. So fast forward, we've been serving Fortune 500 clients for years in that staffing, consulting, kind of managed services space. We now have something called FasTrack, where we actually help develop individuals into the capacity to be developers and tech professionals. And we've kind of merged the ideas of mentorship, discipleship, if you will, with training and development to allow people to really excel in that space, and what we consider a real shortage of talent in the U.S. economy. So that's what we do.
So in the early days of Cook, you took, it was really a supply and demand issue. You had these big Fortune 500 companies that needed computer programmer talent, and Wayne went out and found them and matched those up. And then I think kind of the natural progression of that is, to your point, you're investing in people, that human-centered approach. And then I think the idea used to be just very kind of transactional, though, right? As this thing, these people need to know this thing, and you compared it up. What was the first kind of part of evolution around how do we invest in the humans and take that more human-centered approach?
Yeah, I think when I joined the company in 2016, like you said, I came from that hedge fund space, and we were always breaking apart large systems and trying to see the big idea, and then allocate capital or time to solve problems. And so for me, the tech space, kind of as a new guy, it was like an arbitrage, right? There's $2 or $3 trillion of spend in education, but we're still missing the mark. And really, you're financing that education through student loans, which, if those were loaned to a company and the outcome wasn't what was expected, the company would fail. So we have this system that's kind of built to continually finance a model that wasn't really working. So to your point on the supply side, it just became clear that there has to be some other mechanism for equipping individuals for actually executing in the tech space. And I mean, books could be written on the history of tech, but effectively we built out this massive architecture and infrastructure that companies depend on, and people are kind of being, in our opinion, they're kind of being ground to powder, trying to maintain these systems and innovate And then tech just developed outside of the normal business cycle, right? So it's kind of its own vertical within most companies, although that's starting to change. So once we realized, probably 6, 7 years ago, we already had FasTrack, and we started to realize, you know what, we need to focus a lot of attention on the individual. A whole person, a person of full capacity, can produce multiples of someone who's mired down in politics and confusion and frustration. And so we really started to focus in on that human asset. It's 60 to 80% of an IT budget is people. We don't really have a maintenance process in place as a culture for human beings. We kind of pushed that off into HR years ago, and it's become more compliance oriented. So that's the big gap, the big idea, and that's kind of why we dug in there.
And I know, Brad, talking with you over the years about this stuff and some of the FasTrack things is like, I know that y'all put a lot into like, what are the raw materials someone needs to be successful in this space? And then how do you identify, and I know that you went through some quantitative test creation to be able to test people and stuff like that. Give us a little bit on that before we kind of talk about some of the success stories, but give us a little bit of like what you were doing to find the raw materials needed and then put them into a program to create something different on the backside.
Yeah, so our real concept is based in the idea that good soil brings about good fruit, right? So we don't look for the proven intelligence, we look for capacity. So we test things like cognitive speed, willingness to receive investment, capacity to change, integrity. We evaluate very closely. We want to invest in people who are investable and who have the general capacity to succeed. What we found early on was with our clients, when they said, here's the top list of things we wanted people that are going to come join our teams, tech and skill set was like number 3 or 4 every time. So we realized that in order to be invested in as an individual, you have to be relatable. You have to know how to deal with conflict. I think human beings burn so much energy in misalignment, whether it's the tension of my boss and what he's going to say to me, or not knowing how to navigate my coworker, or having something I know I need to say to add to the team, but I just don't know how to say it. And so what we do is we remove all that wasted energy as best we can in giving guidance and direction around the human piece of how to work and how to execute. And it just has a huge, huge impact. And it starts to leak out in the team, and you get better product, more innovation, and you get better outcomes.
Yeah, but before we look at one of the stories, like what are there certain careers that have tracked this way? Are there certain people that you're like, oh, well, if we can go find somebody in this space, we could turn them into someone technical? Or is it really just a raw material thing that's kind of evenly distributed across lots of different career opportunities?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, our typical raw material, if you will, is 25 to 30 years old. Someone who's come out of school and been in career for a few years and kind of has had an awakening about the need for hard work and diligence a little bit. A lot of physics majors, musicians actually make great developers and vice versa. I would say 70-80% of the people that come into the program have some form of development hobbyist kind of background, but just no capacity to execute at the enterprise level. So we probably screen we launch a cohort every month. We screen probably 100 folks to get to the 12 or 15 that we know we can invest in, but our hit rate's like 90% plus once we bring them to the table. So
Gotcha.
we're just a big believer that you got to have the right raw material.
So some of this is like they're almost programming hobbyists, and then you give them some formal training, because I think tech is one of those things where a lot of people can tinker with it on the side. You can become self-taught and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to go to a Fortune 500 company, you need some kind of formalization. So I guess a lot of what you're doing is taking people with an interest in a hobby and the right raw materials and turning them into somebody that a Fortune 500 company can ingest into their system.
Yeah, or that we started with just sending soldiers out, and then we realized 5-6 years ago that we could build teams and create much more effective units. So now we build teams for our own use, and we deploy the whole team, and we're even knocking around some ideas of scaling up and taking over entire divisions and things like that. Because once the value starts to accumulate as you scale it, because 2 healthy humans is worth a lot more than 1 healthy human, and a team of healthy individuals can change the group. And so we're really seeing multiples of value in it. So yeah, it's a kind of a never-ending pursuit.
And I got to think that that's like so generally rewarding. I mean, I used to coach my son's lacrosse team, and U15, well, they won the state title at varsity. They won the state title at U13, but in U15, they were horrible. They were just horrible because a bunch of kids got pulled up to JV and stuff. And at the start of the season, they did not know what they were doing. There were a few decent players, but by the end of the year, they were, really competitive and got into the playoffs and that kind of stuff. And I think the teams that went undefeated and me helping them, I did not have as near as much pride as the team that was kind of the ragtag band of misfits to start and then turned into something. And, I think that idea of kind of taking folks that might not be where they want to be and helping them get to some place that is really rewarding. And again, being a part of a team, I think being part of a team, a well-functioning team, is just, you can't really put a price on that in the workplace, and it makes it a lot more fun. So that's cool that you're being able to pull that off.
Yeah,
so,
it's that whole humble, hungry, smart thing, right? I mean, if someone's hungry, they're going to keep going. And so we really test for those who we know are going to go after it. And so the outcomes are just a whole lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. So you sent us in advance this really cool story of Misty, who came through the FasTrack program, and y'all did a little story about her and put together the video. So let's look at that and see, kind of from somebody who's been through FasTrack, their own words of what it looks like when you invest in the human.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if I ever thought I would be doing what I'm doing now. It's been a hard journey. I would have days where I thought I was so smart. Oh my gosh. And then the next day, I would not think that I was so smart anymore. Putting in the work, it got me in the door. FasTrack did that. Hi, I'm Misty Tomlin, 2021 graduate of FasTrack, and this is my story. I was a hairstylist for 20 years and eventually owned my own business. But after 20 years, I just wanted to do something new. I got an associate's degree and I was able to get an internship. And when the internship was concluding, I wasn't sure what to do. And I reached out to somebody with FasTrack and they got me in the program. There were a lot of things that I didn't get in my education. Having to work on these fairly big projects quickly with a group of people is something that I hadn't done before. If I could do that, I could do anything, really. And seeing the whole software development lifecycle was super important. So I work for a Fortune 500 logistics company, and we are utilizing GPS info to relay messages to, service different aspects of the trucks. And we, do little features every, few weeks. And it's been a really eye-opening experience.
I mean, Brad, that's just like a great story, man. I mean, there's got to be a lot of pride you have in helping somebody like that kind of change their entire career trajectory.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and again, like IT management and service and within these large orgs, it's a grind, right? So we find that it's obviously empowering for us and exciting for our team. It's great for Misty, for her. But the other thing is the managers who bring these guys on, man, it gives them new life and a fresh perspective, and kind of it gives you purpose in your work, right? So it's I think sometimes we split capitalism and charitable good things separately as if they're two different parts of life, but we have a great opportunity here to do both and to do it well. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Bringing together the human piece and straight up, you got to run a business, and business is about running a profit and returning value to the shareholders, but be able to accomplish both of those is really cool. Now, Brad, I mean, we've talked about this before. One of the things I love about our friendship is we talk about some random stuff, man. We have some really interesting, crazy talks sometimes. And, that's really what kind of led me to want you to have on here, because we were having this conversation one day around this idea of like, is AI going to replace the humans, or is there work that only humans can do? And I think that culture tends to look at things in this kind of stupid, to be honest, binary view, to where it's either AI takes over the world or we don't need any AI, it's only humans. And I really feel the answer is both. And one of the conversations we were having is like, how does AI contribute to like meaningful work? And I know some of the stuff you've done with FasTrack is some people's calling may be to be a hairstylist, but in Misty's story, she kind of wanted something else, and she wanted something different and more, and y'all were able to give that to her. So is there a way in your thinking to maybe carve out some of the less meaningful work with AI so that you can have humans focus on higher value things? So how do you think about that?
Yeah, man, it's got a lot of variables to it. I think the way we approach it, as we approach everything, is the human is the center, right? So regardless of the topic, change is always upon us. It's never going to stop. We have a kind of a hyper speed change of world that we all live in now, but we look at it first and foremost with the individual and equipping the individual. So we assume it's coming. We assume value in it for our companies and our clients and for ourselves. So I think we look at it like, how do we empower these folks to best use those tools to execute at a high level? I mean, I'll tell you this, and you know this from the hedge fund days. We would work on an investment idea for, I think when I started, I'd work on an investment idea for 300 or 400 hours, and I had something called the 3-sentence story. The only way I could pitch that idea to the head of the fund was if I could get it down to 3 sentences. And I think you remember that because you probably remember me calling you and reciting sentences. So I think AI drives home the reality that we have to know how to ask the right question. We have to be able to distill our thought down to the thing. Inefficient work kind of lets you ask a bunch of random questions and eventually hit the target. And a whole person, someone who feels safe and comfortable and like they have a team around them, is going to have better questions and come up with better pathways for work. So for me, it's symbiotic in a sense, largely because it's here. So I think it's going to do what all technology does, Dave. It's going to make things worse in some ways, it's going to make them better in some ways.
Yeah.
The one thing, there's a book called The Glass Cage. It was written years ago, 2010 maybe, by Nicholas Card. It talks about automation. It's a great book and it's a real simple read, but automation always makes us question what living is and what life is, right? Because it tests your edges. So I think we'll test our edges again. I think we'll all be debating what a human is and what technology is, and even the idea of meaningful work. I think for some people, meaningful work is doing the same thing every day well. And that's an interesting dilemma when you could automate certain things. And so I think it's going to bring about a lot of questions, but within a logical, healthy community of professionals, I think we work through them.
Yeah, and I think that if I have certain tasks that I just hate doing, it's the same task over and over and over. But if I could automate that task and then free up that time for me to do something else, I think that's great, right? Is that you can focus on higher value work. And I think the interesting thing about AI is it kind of cuts across kind of all strata of careers. Where just the other day I was talking to a radiologist friend of mine, and I'm going to have him on the show in the new year, and he was talking about eye fatigue, that when you look at these same radiological images over and over and over, but if AI can take the ones that there's no change from 6 months ago to here and kick those out, and he only focuses on the ones that have something that you need to pay attention to. And again, the AI is not saying this person has cancer. The AI is saying like, yo, human, take a look at this thing because something on here is worthy of your attention. And so I think that, you look across all strata, whether you're, a clerical person sitting in a cube and you can automate out a portion of your stuff via AI and focus on things that, can surface better business intelligence for the business or something, or all the way up to radiology, I think is this marrying these two things together of humans plus AI. And then how do we use that to create a little more meaningful work and stuff? And so I think that it's a worthy endeavor to try to figure out how to do, both these and do them both well.
It is. And it's just going to test the edges of things. Again, I think one thing you need in that young developer world, we have a real shortage of just entry-level intelligent development talent in the US. I think that individual needs to be comfortable, safe enough, and intelligent enough and willing to say, hey, this work that I'm doing this week should be automated. So, I mean, that's a real simple thing, but a major deal that's millions of dollars of value for large orgs is if your entry level and junior team members are not willing to raise their hand and say, hey, we should automate this component or this piece, which they typically won't want to do, right? Because it makes them nervous about their job. So you almost need that you need a willful pursuit of automation as an entity, which requires everybody to have trust and belief in their own capacity. And so it's going to test us, but it's going to, we're already in it, right? I mean, we're probably a third of the way through the game talking about the game.
Well, what's interesting to me is that, you live in Franklin, Tennessee, and it's got this cute little downtown. I'm sure y'all have like the little craft fairs and all that kind of stuff, on the fall weekends. And I love when you go through and you'll have someone selling like artisanal cheese. And I think there's this funny joke that I heard where it said artisanal is the word for when for when rich people do stuff that poor people used to. And it's this kind of thing where, people used to make their own food and now you just buy it. And now it's kind of come back around. And I think when you look at like full self-driving cars that are AI, enabled, well, we used to ride horses, and then we had cars, and now we ride horses for sport. Are we going to reach a point where cars are just self-driving and we drive cars only for sport? And so I think there's this huge question, and we've seen this play out before. It just has a different name now, with AI. And I think that's what kind of scares people sometimes.
It does. And we're humans still. I mean, unless AI is going to purchase the products that AI creates, then we're still here, right? And so you kind of have to have this question of like, where do I sit in this? It's really easy, particularly for us, to have this conversation because we're pretty comfortable, we understand it, but 90% of the country doesn't. And so you do have this situation where it's like, this is a rich man's conversation, even in a sense, right? Like, what do we do with this new thing we've created? So I think humans need connection. I've talked about this concept for years, but friction is how you grow. If you remove friction from all systems, you have no bearing. You don't know where you are. You get lost. You get confused. And so I think it's a human nature thing to remove all friction and go as fast as you possibly can. But in pursuing that, we lose ourselves. And so I think this is going to create a lot of precarious and great conversations. Our job as people that are centered on and focused on building the best human beings we can and investing in their lives is to equip them, give them capacity, and bring them into the professional world where they can add value to this change cycle. So we're excited about it. We definitely don't look at it as a competitor. Yeah.
Well, there's this old football coach, not Nick Saban, but a different football coach who made the comment one time. He said, go fast, but don't be in a hurry. And his point was like, when you're in a hurry, you make mistakes. And so I do think AI is moving quickly, so we need to move fast, but we don't need to be in a hurry because otherwise we'll have a lot of unintended consequences, around that. Do you have any kind of final things for us, Brad, before we wrap up here today with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing we spend all our time on and energy is the human being the core asset in tech. I think that if I could leave people with anything, it would be don't forget the humans. It's not a separate segment. It's not a separate line item within the business. I think we spend 2 or 3% of our operating budget maintaining assets within most companies. We don't look at the human kind of component of tech the same way. So if I could give any encouragement, it would be take a step back, really look at how everybody is functioning and doing home life, personal life, mental wellness, all of it, and realize that that's the core asset. The better you are at managing that core asset and truly investing in them, the better user you'll be of whatever automation's coming.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, something I wanted to say so he can't have a rebuttal primarily is like in the late 90s, Tommy Bahama had these like silk pants that were almost like blousy, like MC Hammer pants, but they were silk. And so
good.
So Brad had them on, and I was like, Brad, what's up with the pants? He goes, they are fancy. And so literally, I called him Brad all day today, but just so you know, anytime I talk to him otherwise, I call him Fancy Pants. And you should know, our audience should know it was a well-earned moniker. So Fancy Pants, Fancy Pants, it was great having you on today. Appreciate you, appreciate your friendship, and real talk, I appreciate what you're doing for people by, focusing on the human and helping them kind of fulfill something that maybe they didn't perceive that was available to them before. So thank you, Brad, for being on the show. And now we have our co-pilot tip of the week. It's a game-changing tip that will help you boost your productivity and make your life just a little easier. So here it comes.
Hey everyone, it's Nathan here with your Copilot tip of the week. I want to share a success story of how Copilot Studio has helped a legal firm with accessing data outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. Copilot Studio has plugged into a tool that they use to store all of their court cases, which was often a human task from junior associates. Copilot Studio is now being used to be able to source old court cases and information to help them with building cases that they've taken on brand new to the law firm. This has saved human resource and time, human error, and increased the accuracy and speed of the work that they do, essentially buying time and accuracy into the business. See you next time round for your Copilot tip of the week.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Brad. Fancy Pants, for being with us today. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Next week, Kristen, the better half, better 2/3 of Technically Unraveled, she will be back with Joe Scanlon, our Director of Microsoft GTM Solutions, discussing the world of data and AI and how those technologies are transforming business landscapes. So here on YouTube, a week from now, that's October 31st. That's Halloween. I don't know if Kristen's going to be dressed up or not. We'll have to find out. But it'll be 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and as always, on demand. So thank you so much. Like, subscribe, and share. And we appreciate you, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.